you have to walk the talk. Today's generation is very, very tough in pushing back and challenging. This is all really, really hard. All high achievers are racked by self-doubt, even if they pretend otherwise. I enjoy coming to work every day and applying my mind to it, pushing the limits of my own ability. Hi, I'm Ravi Venkatesan. I'm a jack of many things, master of none. These days, what interests me is entrepreneurship, that too, trying to see how we can get millions of people to start businesses instead of looking for jobs that don't exist. And then the other thing that interests me a lot is the energy transition.
Ravi, welcome to Qunba. Ravi, what advice would you give to someone, and I know you've spoken about this a lot, written a lot about it as well, struggling to find their purpose in life as a leader?
Purpose is something that is a journey. It's a moving goalpost. You know, when you're young, your purpose is very simple. You want to graduate and get a job, and then you want to do well in life, and then you hit your 40s, and most people go through some sort of a speed bump, which is called the midlife crisis. And that's when you actually begin to start turning inwards and start thinking about, okay, well, there's not too much time left, probably at the halfway point. And what is this life going to be about beyond just the, trappings? My advice to people who sort of hit that point in life is discovery. Try lots of things. And eventually it comes to you that this is what, my life is going to be all about. So when I look at the arc of my own career, for the first 50 years, it's pretty mundane. Do something, excel at it, do something bigger, aim for recognition, financial success and all that. And then at 50, I decided to walk away from it all, and I tried many, many things. And today I do what I do. Which is pretty purpose-driven and very fulfilling. So I'd say experimentation is key.
What's a very typical career advice in today's context that you've heard people give, but you completely disagree with?
The one that gets to me is don't work hard, work smart. Okay, and why it gets to me is I can't think of a single successful person who did anything of any consequence who didn't work bloody hard. Okay, I've been quite vocal that whatever success I've had is more about hard work and luck, more than the talent and so forth. Recently, Federer gave this commencement speech that went viral, and he said, "Look, the thing that really bothers me when people say how effortless my stroke was," he says, if only people knew how much effort went into making it look effortless, they'd be shocked and stunned." So yeah, I don't think there's ever been any substitute for just intensity and hard work.
Do you think today, if you were leading a millennial Gen Z workforce who over-index work-life balance, would you be able to convince them to work a 70-hour week?
I think it's very difficult. The world has changed, and I am leading one organization, which is in the building and premise where we are, which has disproportionately young people below the age of 30. And I think the mindset, etc., are different. And you have to work at it. So part of it is mission. You need to be able to identify people who really are here for the mission. It's not just a job. And in my hiring, I got it wrong half the time. And when that happens, you have to go back. Second is, I think you have to walk the talk. If you're not living the mission, you're not intense, they're going to see through that in a nanosecond and say, why me? And today's generation is very, very tough in pushing back and challenging. And I think the most important thing is you have to create a culture where the culture itself reinforces the behaviors you want, not you as the boss. And this is all really, really hard. So I don't envy the CEOs of today who have to do that. I think it was a lot easier in my time.
What's the most brutal feedback you received, Ravi, on your leadership? Who did it come from? What did they tell you?
There was one moment when, it was really tough. The CEO of the company at that time called me and said, people perceive you as being racist. And it stunned me because I abhor racism. I abhor prejudice, and I couldn't conceive that this is how I might have come across. And yeah, that was just shocking. So that was one that I'll never forget. The other stuff is course correction, man. One of the things I think, if you're going to be a successful leader, is you have to remain open to tough feedback. The moment you start shutting down feedback is the beginning of the end. And you've seen this story time and again. So the other stuff is, and tough feedback is never that palatable. But I've learned to ingest it without too much difficulty.
3 things that you look for when hiring a leader or a CEO. 3 must-haves on your list.
First thing I look for is courage. Okay, the capacity to make difficult decisions, the capacity to take risk and ask for forgiveness rather than permission. I mean, without courage, there's no possibility of leadership. I look for how does the person deal with adversity. Okay, when they've had terrific setbacks, how did they respond? Were they crushed by it, or did they stand up, keep going, eventually make it a success? How did this inform their character, and so forth? And the third is, people skills, your ability to identify talent, your commitment to growing talent. What is your track record at this? Because ultimately, it's all about people.
3 things that Ravi does whilst giving feedback to CXOs.
This is the central role of a leader, right? Or first thing, I always start with the positives. Hey, Ruben, just love these things about you and what you're doing out here. Just build up the person's confidence. Unless it's a really bad situation when you don't want to. Second is to talk very simply, clearly, no ambiguity about a couple of the things you want to see them change. Okay. And the third is I get a lot of the time then to reflect on what is your legacy. Hey, you're going to be in this company for some time. You're going to be in this role for a shorter time. What do you want to leave behind? Okay. It's not just about quarter to quarter, year to year. What is it that over time you want to accomplish? How do you want to be remembered? Okay, by people. And get them to really think about this, because that's what unlocks their energy and everything else.
If you could ask someone one question in an interview, and based on that one question, you decide to hire him or her, what would you probe them on?
Back to how do you deal with adversity and setback and failure? That reveals more than almost anything else, in my opinion.
What did you discover really late about leading people that you wish you had known earlier?
I would say I discovered in my late 40s that you go only as far as your team. And therefore, the central job is not vision, it's not strategy, it's not none of these things. They're important. It is fundamentally about the team and the quality of the people around you. And to obsess over that as job number one is perhaps one thing. And I would equally with that say, I realize that if you can't manage yourself, there's no way you're going to manage the team or the organization. So nowadays there's this talk about the inner game of leadership and the outer game of leadership. And so much of what we talk about is the outer game. But the inner game determines the outer game. Self-mastery, if you will, that journey is, I think, something I've woken up to only in my 50s.
What created self-doubt for somebody like you, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, all high achievers are racked by self-doubt, even if they pretend otherwise. Okay. And I put it in the same category as fears. Okay. It's one type of fear. And there's a beautiful quote which says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to operate despite it. And it's the same with self-doubt. It's a part of life. Some people have more self-doubt, some people a little less, but it's part of it. And your ability to go on operating despite your self-doubt is important. And so I've developed coping mechanisms. One is, when that happens, to remind myself that, hey, I'm pretty all right, I'm pretty successful. So it's probably going to turn out okay. I think the central people in your life are important. Your spouse is very, very central because they can either fan the self-doubt or help you put a lid on it. I talk about the 5 people in your life who determine much of what happens. So surround yourself with good people who are going to reinforce you when the self-doubt arises. Meditation, pretty powerful. For all the leaders out there who ever watch this, I'd say accept that self-doubt is not unique to you. It's part of all our lives.
What's the one thing that you've learned each from, you've worked with them very closely as they've built their enterprises and legacies. What's the one thing you've learned from Nandan, Mr. Murthy, and Bill Gates?
I probably learned the most from Mr. Murthy because I had the great fortune of spending lots of time with him for over a long period of time. And I learned the importance of intensity from him. But there's a phrase he used a lot, which I just love. He said, a good manager must have a bird's eye view and a worm's eye view. Okay, there are people who are good at this and there are people who are good at that. But if you're going to be really exceptional, you have to be able to go up and down, zoom in, zoom out. And I loved his capacity for that. From Bill Gates, I just admire his capacity for tackling the toughest problems and being all in on those, whether it was, health with polio and, vaccines before, now climate and so forth. I think it's just been inspiring, and that's one of the reasons why I shifted careers and so forth. I think Nandan has just an extraordinary capacity to communicate effectively and simply and inspire in that process. So that's what I admire most in him.
2 mistakes from your own career that you tell your kids to avoid at all costs.
Again, as I said, there are really no mistakes, because when you make a mistake, you have the opportunity to correct them. Okay. The 2 things I would say to people, as young people particularly, is live intentionally and make your choices so that you don't have regrets. Okay. Whatever you do, make sure you make a choice that you look back and you don't regret it. Okay. And the other one is take more risk. Okay. So that I've tried to live my life more and more on those terms.
Who in Business India is inspiring you right now and why?
Not many, but if I had to pick one name, I'm very intrigued by Nitin Kamath. And I like Nitin because self-made. He's built a great business. He's not out there in the media all the time. He's doing it very, very quietly. And most importantly, at a pretty young age, he's already begun giving it all away through Rainmatter Foundation. Most of these successful entrepreneurs I meet of the young generation, they're saying, look, I'm going to do that later. Okay, right now I'm just busy building a great business, making a lot of money. Then I'll figure out what to do with it. And what I admire about Nitin is he's so concerned about the state of the planet and the world that he's deeply committed to giving it away now. So of all the people, he's the one I'd like to get to know better.
If you had to build an enterprise today from scratch and you could pick any 3 people from any walk of life across the globe, who would they be and why?
Dream team would have Jeff Bezos. It would have Satya and Elon Musk. But I don't think they'd get along very well. It would explode. But these are people whose, I think, mind I'm just utterly fascinated by.
What's the end goal or the chase that inspires you day on day to be at work every day?
It's very simple. I like puzzles and problems. And so I like tackling really tough problems and showing up every day and trying to make a small dent in it. So I focus on just 2 areas. One is the climate change, and particularly the energy transition, and it's a hideously complex problem. The other one is, can we get millions of young people in India to start businesses, creating employment and prosperity? Both tough issues. I know both are, fairly intractable, but I enjoy coming to work every day and applying my mind to it, and occasionally getting the joy of some success. But every day, pushing the limits of my own ability in every way, intellectually, emotionally, etc.
Ravi Venkatesan's legacy will be dash.
Forgotten. It's true. Think about all the great people and how quickly we forget what they did, who they were. So we're all mostly destined to be consigned to that same heap.
We're coming to our rapid fire, Ravi. Enjoy this. The hardest thing about being a CEO is dash.
Managing your own emotions.
One thing you've learned always to do as a leader.
Walk the talk.
One thing you've learned leaders should never do.
Shoot the messenger.
A leader who's captivated your imagination.
Mackenzie Scott.
When in doubt, Ravi dash.
Consults his closest friends.
The aha moment of your career.
When I realized I am successful, so I don't need to keep striving.
A job you secretly wanted but didn't get.
The CEO of Microsoft.
One book you recommend every leader should read, aspiring leader should read.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I keep going back to that.
A business buzzword you dislike hearing in meeting.
Sustainability.
2 to 3 people on Ravi's list of upcoming Indian startup founders to watch out for.
I really admire, without knowing him, 𝐸𝐯𝐲𝐻. I really admire Nitin Kamath.
70-hour work week dash.
Bad idea.
Your favorite movie or show character when we say the word leadership.
Patton.
Business leader you wish you had as your teacher.
I already had all of them. You couldn't have got better teachers than Murthy and Gates.
A secret vice.
Not so secret. Good one.
One founder you'd love to be co-founder with today.
Sam Altman.
Besides his family, Ravi's most prized possession is?
My dogs.
One thing on your personal to-do list that's been there for the longest time.
Galapagos.
You're most grateful for your life about?
My wife Sonali.
Satya Nadella in one word.
Leader.
Narayan Murthy in one word.
Genius.
Bill Gates in one word.
Polymath.
Crypto or climate tech, your next bet.
Climate tech.
Your favorite workday time waster.
Reading news.
First thing you do in the morning, the last thing you do at night.
Gratitude prayer.
Morning person or night owl?
Money.
Your biggest investing error.
Selling Microsoft stock.
Netflix or Prime?
Netflix.
Flipkart or Amazon?
Sadly, Amazon.
Your most digitally used wallet?
GPay.
Your favorite binge watch till date?
Godfather.
The soundtrack to your life will be?
Sara.
A non-existent job you wish existed today.
Chief mentor. Because nobody wants advice.
If you had to invent a holiday in India, what would we all be celebrating?
Secularism.
If you had a gigantic billboard out there and could type a one-line message to millions of Indians, what would it be?
Love.
With that, thank you very much. It's been a privilege and an honor of a lifetime to catch up with you on Qunba.
I just love what Ruben and Saket and Jasmine are trying to do at Qunba. The world is changing in profound ways. I think the most extraordinary thing about the 21st century is just the rate of change. And I think a lot of people are struggling with this. And one of the ways you help people cope is by giving them leadership role models and ideas that they can assimilate. So I just admire what you are trying to do, and you're doing it in such a professional and dedicated way. And I'm honored to be one of the people who had a chance to converse with you.
Big broad smile. Okay, rolling. Silence. 30, 40 questions. One word.
30.